After years of asking for an iPhone that is objectively a great value, I feel like Apple has finally delivered with the iPhone 17 series. And that's why today I want to show you a full comparison across the entire lineup. From the base iPhone 17 to the all-new iPhone Air and the updated iPhone 17 Pros, there is more choice than ever, but I think there's a clear winner. And at the end of the video, I want to tell you which one I recommend and ultimately which one I'm picking for myself. So let's start off first with the way that these phones look. On the base iPhone 17, pretty much the only thing that's changed here is the colors. It's the same aluminum design as last year, and aesthetically, it looks pretty much one-to-one like an iPhone 16. The iPhone Air, on the other hand, is a completely new design that Apple has never done. It is ultra thin, it's made of a polished titanium, and in your hand, it's definitely going to feel like the most premium model. Typically, that would be true of the iPhone 17 Pros, but this year, Apple went back to aluminum, and although it's a unibody design, so the construction is way more expensive, ultimately, the underlying material on the Pros is cheaper than last year. That being said, this is the biggest design change for the Pro iPhones in their history, and overall I really like the way it looks. And while typically the Pros would also have the best displays, Apple has standardized the screen quality across the board. So regardless of which iPhone 17 you buy, you are getting the best display that Apple has ever put on a phone. Yeah, Apple has finally added 120Hz ProMotion as a standardized feature. We've been waiting on this one for so long, and it's finally here, as well as always on display. That is also a standardized feature this year. But Apple didn't just play catch up. All iPhone 17s now get a new anti-reflective coating on the display. They all have ultra thin bezels, and they all get even brighter, going up to 3000 nits at their peak. The only difference across these screens is the sizing. The base iPhone 17 is 6.3 inches, the iPhone Air is 6.5 inches, and the iPhone 17 Pro comes in at 6.3 or 6.9 inches. Essentially, you can't go wrong this year, and the fact that this is all on the cheapest iPhone 17 too, keep that in mind as we go throughout this video. Now, similar to the displays, the cameras are also pretty straightforward, as Apple's done a 1, 2, and 3 lens differentiation across the lineup. Starting at the simplest and then building up as all the features stack, the iPhone Air has a single wide-angle lens with a 48 megapixel sensor. This means the photos and videos will look great, but you're not going to have the shooting range or additional pro capabilities of even something like the base iPhone 17, which on top of the standard lens also adds a 48 megapixel ultra-wide for those super cool photos. The 0.5 is one of my favorite lenses, and also enabling macro photography, which just isn't on the Air. Because of the second lens, you also get spatial photos and videos, but there's only like 3 people that own an Apple Vision Pro, so I don't think that's too big of a deal. On the video side, the base iPhone 17 also gains cinematic video, but this is a pretty small niche feature, and I don't think many people would miss it on the Air. But the iPhone 17 Pros are kind of in a league of their own. In addition to the standard wide and ultra wide, they gain a new telephoto that is also 48 megapixels for the first time, and it has now up to an 8x telephoto zoom. The Pro phones give you the absolute max shooting range, from zooming all the way out to something super wide to something crazy narrow like traditional portrait photography. And the camera sensors here are Apple's best and highest quality. So for capturing media, it will just look a little bit better on the Pro phones, and with features like Pro RAW, you can capture all of the detail you want. And the same is true on the video side, as the Pro phones can record up to 4K at 120 frames per second, and they get the newest features for this year, like recording Apple Log 2 and Genlock support. It's also notable that the Pros have second generation image stabilization, where all the other phones only have first gen, so video especially should be more stable on the most expensive iPhones. And for recording audio too, the Pro phones have 4 studio microphones, everything else has less. So while the Pro cameras are still pretty far ahead, I do think the gap is closing now that Apple's brought this 48 megapixels to all of the phones and even added it to the ultra wide on the regular model. But as for the front cameras, they're actually identical across all models. You get the same new 18 megapixel sensor, which has the ultra wide front camera. They can do these really cool selfies and use AI to frame you. I think it's cool that this is default on every single phone, because it's a feature in a year or two that I see people not wanting to live without. Interestingly, the battery life actually stacks up the same way as the cameras too, meaning that less cameras means less battery life. The iPhone Air has the worst battery life of any new iPhone, coming in at 27 hours of rated time for video playback. And I know while that sounds terrible, it's actually the same rated battery life that Apple gave the iPhone 16 Pro last year. The base iPhone 17 gains 3 hours on top of the Air, putting it at 30 hours of rated video playback, and then the Pro models are getting kind of in their own area. The iPhone 17 Pro comes in at 33 hours of video playback, with the iPhone 17 Pro Max going all the way up to 39 hours, which is the longest battery we have ever seen on an iPhone by a pretty good margin. Honestly, I think the sweet spot for battery though is that 30 hours on the regular iPhone 17. I think for a lot of people the Air might be a little bit less, but I think the Pros might be way more than some folks need. And I think that 30 hours is just like a really good benchmark that Apple accomplished. Now on my iPhone 17 Pro, I definitely want to keep it protected, and that's why I partnered up with ESR, who sponsored today's video. This is ESR's CyberTough magnetic case, and it offers the ultimate protection for your iPhone 17 Pro, featuring up to 23 feet of drop protection. I've run this through its paces and was very impressed every time how it held up. On the back, there's a new zinc alloy camera guard that folds out into a stash stand, so you can set it up and enjoy content wherever you're at. And below that, MagSafe is incredibly strong, about twice the strength of the competition, with 1,500 grams of magnetic force. Plus, to protect your display, there's the new ESR UltraFit Amorite Pro screen protector. You just prep your phone and then pop it into this custom fit tray, and the installation is one step, pulling a tab, and it's also one of the most satisfying installs I've ever done. And the quality here is unmatched. It's accessory glass made by Corning, who has been Apple's screen supplier since the original iPhone. It has up to 10x the impact absorption compared to other screen protectors, and it looks clearer than ever. When you look at your phone, you can barely tell you have a screen protector installed. So protect your iPhone with ESR, and use my link down below in the description to get these accessories for yourself. A huge thank you to ESR for sponsoring this one. Now let's get back to it. However, out of everything we talk about in this video, I don't think one category matters less than the chip on the inside, because Apple's using the A19 in the base iPhone 17 and the A19 Pro in the Air and Pro models. The thing is, unless you're doing repeated AI tasks constantly or playing graphically intense games for an extended duration of time, you're not gonna notice the difference on these phones. Objectively, the Pros will be the best, especially because they have this new vapor chamber cooling system, which will more evenly dissipate heat, and with the aluminum unibody, the Pro phones are gonna run incredibly cool. So thermals go to the Pros if you're pushing them to the limits. I don't think a lot of people would push their phone to the limits. I know I definitely don't, and I have never noticed a difference between iPhone processors between regular and Pro ever. So for me, the chip inside of each phone wouldn't even be a factor worth considering, because realistically, in real life, they're all gonna be kind of the same. Now, Apple did make a big deal about durability, and the Air and the Pro now have the exact same durability rating from Apple, meaning that they have ceramic shield on the front and the back, making them more resistant to scratches and less likely to crack when dropped. But on the base iPhone 17, you only get ceramic shield on the front display, and Apple has not put it on the back. So worth considering, I guess, if you're going to plan on using the iPhone 17 without a case. Next up, wireless connectivity is also pretty similar across all phones, but with a few key differences to note. All phones are getting Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and Thread thanks to Apple's new N1 chip on the inside. However, for 5G and cellular, the Air is definitely the worst of the bunch, because while Apple supports the fastest sub-6 GHz and millimeter wave 5G on the base iPhone 17 and the 17 Pro, the Air only supports the slower type of sub-6 because it's using Apple's C1X modem that doesn't yet support the ultra-fast speeds. Now, this doesn't mean the Air will be slow over cellular, but you just can't connect the lightning-fast type of 5G that kind of feels like an Ethernet wired connection. And going along with that, the Air is also an eSIM phone globally, so there's no way to physically put in or remove a SIM card from this product. The Air just does not support it. But an interesting tidbit here is you actually get a bigger battery on iPhone 17s without the SIM tray. That's because Apple has finally put the empty space that you get when removing the SIM tray to good use. And the difference is somewhat notable. It looks like it's a few percent different just by getting an eSIM only. Also, for satellite connectivity, there is no difference in functionality across these models. They can all send text over satellite, reach out to emergency services, and even have crash detection that is one-to-one on every iPhone 17. Finally, just want to share a couple tidbits that didn't really fit into any of these other categories, because I do think they are somewhat interesting and could inform your buying decision. Both the base iPhone 17 and the Air have slow USB 2 transfer speeds, so if you move a lot of data from your phone to your computer, you definitely want to get the Pros because those have the faster USB 3. If your heart is set on buying a black iPhone, you cannot get a Pro because Apple did not make a black iPhone 17 Pro. Black is only available on the base 17 or the Air. We have no idea why there's not an aluminum 17 Pro, but Apple has not offered one, so there is no black there. If you plan on needing to charge your phone a lot, only the base 17 and the iPhone 17 Pros have the faster 25-watt charging speeds. The Air is capped at 20 watts, which is just a bit slower. And if you are somebody who needs a 2 terabyte storage capacity, which I do not believe there's a person in the world that would ever need that, you have to buy the Pro Max. It is a $2,000 total option for this phone, but that is only available on the most expensive iPhone. For every other model though, the good news this year is that Apple has standardized 256 gigabytes of starting storage. On the Pro iPhones, Apple cleverly doubled the storage in order to raise prices, but that just isn't the case for the cheapest iPhone 17, which is something I was not expecting to see them do. Which naturally brings us to the prices for the rest of the models. The base iPhone 17 starts at $799, the Air at $999, and the Pro models at $1099. And to me, I think there's one model that stands far above the rest in terms of value, and that's the base iPhone 17 at $800. For the same price as last year, you get Apple's best display ever with 120 Hz, an amazing battery, solid cameras, a good chip, and even though the design isn't technically new, I still think it looks clean, especially with the new colors. I'm saying it now, the base iPhone 17 is the best value iPhone that I think has ever existed. Period. It is just a phenomenal value for what you're getting. That being said, I don't think that's going to be my personal choice this year. I really like the iPhone Air, and I am so torn between that and the Pros because I do have a feeling that about halfway through next year, the battery will degrade a bit and I'll probably want a Pro. So if I had to decide right now what model am I getting, it's the standard size iPhone 17 Pro. I think that'll probably end up being my daily driver, but I absolutely think the Air is going to be, I think I'm going to be using that a lot in this coming year as well. If I had to pick one, right, you only get one. I also really care about the camera upgrades and the best battery, and that is pretty much the thing that the Pro offers this year. So I hope you enjoyed this video and helped you pick which iPhone 17 to get. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, hit subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.